Okay, I'd like to call this Madison Select Board meeting to order on Monday, January 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda, AP warrant number 2319, 2023. Payroll register number 115, 2023, and number 112, 2023.
Make a motion to accept the AP warrant and payroll registers.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2023.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2023. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Manta?
None.
Mrs. Webb?
Nothing.
Mr. Gopian?
None.
Item of communication, Mr. Town Manager.
So in your packet, I put an updated select board meeting schedule. Runs through most of 2023. I just wanted some feedback on the second meeting in February. I put on there with a question mark, Tuesday, February 21st, because the 20th is President's Day. And the following Monday, the 27th, I'm not here. I'm out of town. So I didn't know what the board wanted to do. Did you want to just have one meeting in February? If you want to have another one, when would you like to meet?
Tuesday the 21st, or not have a meeting?
Tuesday the 21st.
Okay.
That works for me.
All right. Mr. Manta, you good with that? Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll go with the 21st.
If that works, great. I'd sent an email out to you earlier. I was talking with somebody at Maine Municipal about ordinances that towns can do to regulate and limit the number of medical marijuana dispensaries. We currently have 5 in town. If the voters choose to, they can enact an ordinance that will limit it and grandfather those 5. There's also differences that you're learning every day from the Office of Marijuana Policy as the difference between a caregiver dispensary and a caregiver retail store. So I just thought I would bring it up to the board. I'm not getting any pressure one way or the other from any residents, but is this something the board would like to pursue? Ultimately, you have to create an ordinance that would restrict and regulate medical marijuana dispensaries. Currently, we have a prohibition ordinance for recreational marijuana, so we don't have any authorized recreational marijuana stores in town. I thought I'd put it out to the board to see if that's something you want to pursue, or if you're just happy with the way it is.
We have 5 of them at this point.
We do.
All right. Anybody have any willingness to jump into this, or?
I think 5's enough in the downtown area. I have no problem if I want to go on the outside.
Not all downtown, I don't think.
Right, so to be clear, there's 3 in the downtown area,
Yeah.
and 2 over on Lakewood Road.
Yeah.
This is what?
I just have a concern that, do we need to do this because there are 5 already? I'm gonna say probably the market is saturated with 5. Does it make any sense to make an ordinance to limit it because it's gonna limit itself? I mean, that's the way I feel about it, as opposed to making another ordinance. Sorry.
Is that something you can find out from some of the ones that we have at this point that are already there? I mean,
Well,
they
of course,
must have records and
they would
they
like
want-
less competition,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes, well-
so they would probably be in favor of limiting the number as long as they're allowed to stay in business. And the other thing is, the way the tax laws keep changing on this, it actually costs a marijuana distributor more if they're running a adult use operation rather than a medical, because the taxes are so much higher. So there's really no incentive for these people to try to push the town to go into adult use because they're actually making more money as a medical caregiver. So, but I would tend to agree with Mrs. Dwyer that maybe you just let the market weed out.
Well, just a comment, when we lived in the Forks when rafting was,
Yeah.
and everybody was starting rafting companies. And that sort of just, they all settled out after a while without having to, I mean, not that they would have done anything anyway, but it just seems to me that the competition will limit the amount of them. Because there's going to be so many.
Tim, do you see that the town's getting any tax revenue from this, or just the state's gonna keep it all?
Right now, the state legislature has not allowed any of the towns to issue what's called a single-use tax. And really, that's been a pushing point for years because say you allow a single-use tax to the municipality on marijuana, well then that opens the door to a single-use tax on haircuts and a single-use tax on surf shops down by the beach and that sort of thing. So the legislature's been really reluctant to do that. So the state does keep all the money. We do get it back in a small amount in revenue share. So,
Okay.
I think I've got the direction I needed. Thank you. In your packets, I gave the 2022 statistic sheet from the library that Julie provided. Circulation was up 20% from 2021, so back to pre-pandemic levels of library use, which is a good thing. Actually late last week, I had sent you an email and I'd given you some of the paperwork just now. I wanted to talk a little bit about plow truck replacement. Since I've been working very closely with Peter Payne and the highway crew, I've gotten to get a real good idea of two of our most aging trucks. One is a 2001 single axle. It doesn't have very many miles on it because it's used primarily on the Weston Avenue part of town. The other is a 2005 Wheeler, which is a larger truck, and that is getting some miles on it. Both of these trucks are challenges, and I just wanted to point out the fact that as you have folks in that highway department that are getting ready to maybe not stay active workers, maybe retire, and you're bringing in new people, one of the things that we experienced is we put a new driver in this plow truck number 7, the single axle, and it was very difficult for him that first storm. And so it's a truck that someone that has a lot of experience really needs to be driving. Plus, it's 22 years old. So what I'm recommending is if it's acceptable to the board, I would like to start looking at replacements sooner than later because of the timeline, how far out these new trucks are. I talked with somebody, one of the vendors this past week, and they said expect 12 to 15 months out. So if you order a truck right now, it won't be built for another 12 to 15 months. And so if we're looking at replacing trucks in 2024, we need to be ordering them now. And in that sheet I passed out to you, we have some funds available that was approved by town meeting last year that's sitting in the capital funds right now, $103,000. I would like to put out bids next month to replace that single axle truck, see what we get for bids, and if the bids are acceptable, if there's one that's acceptable to the board, we could order that with those funds. And then right behind it, I would recommend raising money at town meeting for a Wheeler truck to replace truck number 9. And if that's approved at town meeting, then we could order that, bid it out in May, June, order it in July, and have it available for the winter of 2024. Just my thoughts on priorities, and I did have an opportunity to talk with Peter Payne about this, and I think we're in agreement that if we're going to replace trucks, these are the two that come to the top of the list, and the age of them. So I'm just kind of looking for direction of the board. You think it's okay to start by getting some bids on replacing this single axle truck now?
Mr. Moody?
Is that single axle truck, is that more important than the wheeler?
I think what I've learned from Pete is that single axle truck is really just for in-town plowing. And it's not going to be used very much in the summer.
We use it all in the summer. It's got a sand hopper on it.
Yeah.
It's only for plowing. It's all we're using it for.
So all we've got right now in capital is this 103, 500,
That's what's left over for highway capital, yeah.
and to replace that 205, 2005 wheeler is 195 right now.
That's just a guess, because I haven't received any budget figures yet. I talked to the guy at Freightliner, and he sold us our last two vehicles, both the single axle and the wheeler. The single axle that he sold us about 3 years ago, we paid $85,000 for, but then you've got to equip it. Right. The wheeler that we bought last year, we paid $95,000 for, but he already told me expect at least a 12 to 15% bump on that price. So that puts you up maybe somewhere in the range of $120,000, and then you've got to equip that.
Now, we're talking that replacing that one, is the timing going to be so that we could raise half for this coming town meeting and half for the next? Would that work? Instead of throwing 195,000 at the people?
Right, it might. But then again, what you're doing there, because you're 12 to 15 months out, you're saying we're going to raise half of it, order it, and hope that we can raise the second half at the next town meeting, rather than having all the money in hand when you order it.
I know what you're saying, but we've always in the past that kind of whatever equipment we needed, we kind of broke it down in a couple of year spectrum, and the people kind of liked it better than throwing almost $200,000 at them in 1 year.
Right. That, you got me thinking now, Mr. Rudy. You could probably appropriate the money this year for the chassis and get that chassis ordered. And then next town meeting, you can appropriate the money for the plow, the wing, and all the other accessories that need to be added to it.
I like the sound of that.
Good thinking.
Myself, that's just my opinion.
That's not gonna push that, that's not gonna push that,
No, because
Date out.
they're two separate bids.
it's not gonna push the date out more than 24, is it? Fall, winter 24?
And the chassis should be available in the fall, and then it's just a matter of getting all the accessories.
Struggle.
We can't use accessories for one truck on the other.
It all depends on the condition of those that we have. There may be some that we can use.
The wing on it is fairly new. It's only a couple, 3 years old, and it matches the wings that are on the two new Freightliners. So the wing probably could be eliminated, but I would recommend putting a new headgear and a push plow on it.
If you try to sell that 2001 truck with everything on it, isn't that gonna get you more money? I mean, we're gonna sell that outright, correct, to somebody? When if that had the wing and the whole 9 yards on it, wouldn't it get you more money?
It could, but maybe 6 one way, half dozen the other. And we have learned this year, because we have older equipment, that it's valuable to hold on to some of these units for a little bit of time. We had number 9 go down with a wiring problem, and so it was out of commission for 2 storms, and that's a wheeler. So we had Peter's old truck that we replaced last year sitting outside, and we actually used that truck for 2 storms. So balancing what you've got and not being too quick to sell it actually worked out for us.
Still go.
You use these trucks a lot in the summertime?
The wheelers you do, because they're heavy dump trucks for gravel, sand, when you're hauling sand and when you do projects. We only have 2 in-town trucks to do both sides of town, and those are primarily just wintertime trucks.
right, so are we okay with them? Sorry, I'm sorry. Yep.
And I think it's I think it's a good idea to keep our equipment updated. And it doesn't take too much for breakdowns, especially on that type of equipment, to come up with a big cost-factoring maintenance problem.
Probably find out this week.
Yeah, I mean, they got you. I mean,
Yeah.
if it breaks down, we gotta fix it. We gotta find the money somewhere. We
So-
got no choice.
Are we okay with them with Tim going out, town manager going out to bid for this $103,500? We don't even know if that will come in at that price, so.
Right, and that's what I
More or
really
less.
that's what I really need to find out, is to
Are we okay with that?
get some bids on in-town truck. Okay, thank you. Just a couple of more things. You saw the email from Chairman Benziano that there is an ambulance full board meeting this Wednesday, so he's gonna recruit 3 of you heavily.
Yeah, we need 3 people to go because I cannot be there. So, Glenn? Sal? Mr. Gopian? Mr. Moody?
It's his turn. I went last time.
I went last time.
No, you did not. It's your turn.
All right, Mr. Gopian, thanks. As we know, that
We
those,
also need another one.
Glenn's.
Oh, Glenn's.
Just so we know, I mean, those are about 8 minutes long, so it isn't like you're giving up a whole night. Maybe 9 minutes.
The final thing I wanted to ask the board is if they have time next week to sit down and do an interview and just introduction and try to get to know the candidate that I talked to this week. Someone did come forward and put in a resume for the road commissioner position. Obviously, that person does not want his name disclosed in a public meeting because of his current employment, but he would like to sit down and talk with the board. So I would recommend, if the board was willing, we could do a meeting, give me some time to post it, but just have only one item on the agenda for an executive session and sit and talk with you and get you the information on the person in between time. But I told him that you may have some time to do this next week, the week of the 30th. Just checking to see when people would be available and how many people would like to participate.
I'd like to participate.
What date you pick?
I haven't picked a day yet. I'm looking to see.
Can you kind of highlight a little bit of what his background is? I mean, how much training, background?
No, I'll send that information to you.
Okay,
Yeah, I will. I'll get that to you in email.
okay.
I'd say just set up the date, and then, I mean, I obviously have basketball that's going on, and I have to be there, so, I mean, I'll do the best I can.
What about us?
Well, the old grandfathers don't need to go. I was looking this way, Mr. Moody, so.
So if it's a girls' game, we can do the interview at the gym.
Yes.
So
Oh, that's right. It's a home game.
I'm kind of wondering if we have a meeting set up at the gym anyways.
that's all I had for communication.
All right, thank you. New business, number 1, discuss waste management contract renewal.
So in your packets, I did put the majority of the contract that was sent to me. If you remember a few months ago at a meeting, they initially offered a contract that needs to be renewed by this coming July. 5 years, 5% increase, and about a 30% increase to the small items that we pay for, like tires and television sets and things with Freon and so forth. So I proposed back that they do a 3-year contract rather than a 5-year contract. We were able to negotiate the additional items like tires to a 10% or 5% increase, I'm sorry. And everything else stayed at a 5% increase. I was hoping we could get that down a little bit, but so that's where we're at right now. Now, today I received the letter from Waste Management that shows what we paid for everything in the front gate, everything in the back gate last year, and I put that on that little sheet I handed out to you earlier, just so you get an idea of what kind of dollars we're talking about. So last year in 2021, we had 2,217 tons go through the front gate at $73.76 a ton. That was 163,000. This past year in 22, that number was up a little bit. We had 2,373 tons go through, that fee was up to $75.60, and so we paid about $180,000 at the front gate this year. At the back gate, back in 2021, our total tonnage was about 880 tons. This past year in '22, that number was down. So it was funny, we were up about 150 tons at the front gate, we were down about 100 tons at the back gate. And so the total increase overall was pretty much offset between about 257,000 to 263,000. So what I did in that final box over there is I took the average of the last 2 years and say next year, say it's an average year. Then you're gonna have about 2,300 tons at the front gate and about 830 tons at the back gate. But because of the 5% increase, your overall spending is gonna go from 263 to 276 estimate. So that's why when you look at the budget this year, you're gonna see that we're gonna have to budget for about 275, 280 in our waste management fees. Based on that 5% increase, all things being equal, you'll probably see $15,000 increases every year. So whether we budget 280 this year, it'll be 295 next year. The year after that, it'll be 310, somewhere in that neighborhood. So you're just seeing the cost of everything else, the cost go up for the contract with Waste Management. So we don't have to renew this contract until June. However, I don't think that they're gonna change. I don't think they're gonna come back with anything less than, they've agreed to do a 3-year contract, which is better than 5 with the inflation, and a 5% increase. So I'm just, if the board is okay with signing that contract, then I would need a motion to authorize me to sign that contract. If there's things you want me to go back to Waste Management and talk to them more about, I'll be glad to do it. So.
Let's do it.
Yep. How come you wanted to go to a 3-year instead of 5
Because in that 5-year contract, they're asking for 5% increase every year.
every year?
And the previous contract was 2.5% every year. So I'm hoping that within 3 years, maybe the inflation bug will kind of even out, and then we can go back to them and talk about something less than 5.
All right, so excuse me, are we interested in making a motion to approve the contract? I don't think we have anywhere to go. There's nowhere to go.
I'll make the motion to have the town manager to set up the 3-year contract.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set up a 3-year solid waste disposal agreement with Waste Management, effective July 1, 2023. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, discuss matching grant award for Spinology Chiropractic.
All right, so Dustin Niffen has submitted his paid invoice for some insulation work that he did at the building out there on Lakewood Road. He was one that received a small grant back in August of $1,880, and his work of over $11,000 certainly qualifies him for a matching grant. So if the board wishes, I would like a motion to pay out of ARPA funds the $1,880 to Dustin Niffen and Spinology Chiropractic.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Cool.
And is there a cutoff date? Is there a cutoff date on this?
Right, a year from the time it was approved. So I think that says that in that letter that was in your packet.
This is from 22, the summer?
All right, so the bottom of the letter says you have until August of 2023 to complete the project.
Oh, wow.
All right, so we have a motion to pay.
I'll make it a motion to pay the $1,880 to Dr. Dustin Niffen.
All right, second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to pay to Dr. Dustin Niffen, Spinology Chiropractic, $1,880 out of the opera funds for a matching grant. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, number 3, continue discussion of town personnel policy.
All right, so in your packets, I created a summary page that's about 1.5 pages long. And from the notes that I took while the board reviewed the packet over the last couple of meetings, I came up with 8 items that would require the board's action to actually change some language in here. And if it pleases the board, I would just maybe go through these one at a time, and I'd even take a motion on them one at a time if the board's ready to do that. So, does that sound?
Let's start with section 4, letter A.
So when we were talking about recruiting and hiring, it was suggested by the board that maybe we loosen up the language a little bit there to allow for the creation of committees. That would include a member of the select board, the town manager, department heads, and citizen representatives. This doesn't require that, but it certainly allows for it more than the wording did previously in the personnel policy. So I wanted to know what your thoughts were on that. Did you wish to include that highlighted language? Everything else in there is already in the policy. It's just that highlighted last sentence that would be added to it.
I think just the 3 would be good enough. Town manager, select board, and department head.
I added that citizen representative in there because other towns do offer that. And again, this is not saying you have to do that, it's just saying you could as an example.
I'd prefer leaving that in, if we do that.
It could be a combination of those, right? It could be the town manager and a select board. It could be 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4, correct? I mean, it doesn't necessarily
Right.
have to be.
According to the way the personnel policy reads now, the hiring process has to include the town manager. But now we're opening it up so that it could include members of the select board, department heads, that sort of thing.
And that's only if we feel that it's necessary. It's not
I
like we
believe,
have
right,
to
that's
do that.
why it says may.
Right,
How do you want to vote on these one at a time?
I'd like to take them one at a time if you,
Do we need a motion?
right, so my question is, does the board wish to include the highlighted language? And so the motion would be to include the highlighted language.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to the effect that to include the highlighted language under section 4, letter A, recruitment, page 5.
I'll make a motion that we include that language.
I'll second it. All right. We have a motion and a second to include the highlighted portion. These procedures may include the creation of an interviewing committee to include the town manager, a member of the select board, a department head, and a citizen representative. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? 4 to 1. All right, second one, section 4, letter F, separation 3, and the highlighted portion says, at the discretion of the town manager, this pay can be made either on the next regular payday or in increments of 40 hours per week until all leave pay is exhausted.
So if you remember the discussion on this one, according to the handbook, if someone leaves under good terms and they have vacation time and sick time on the books, then according to the handbook, we pay that out in one lump sum at the next pay period. But that has not always been our practice. Our practice has been someone can leave and decide they want to be paid out in 40-hour increments until their sick and vacation time that's approved is exhausted. We have that situation going on right now, for example. And so my understanding of the discussion of the board was, if we're doing that, we should at least leave it in there as an option. So that's why I added the language that says, at the discretion of the town manager, this pay can be made either in one lump sum or paid out in 40-hour increments.
So go.
I think it should be paid out the way it is, right? You pay it out in one lump sum.
So you're not in favor of adding that language?
No.
So we should stop doing that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier on the people keeping the books.
Any other comments? Mr. Moody?
Mr. Gobian has a point there, but I'm not so sure that I agree 100%. And the reason I say that is that if you've got an employee that has X number of years, especially somebody that's been here for 15 or 20 years or is going to retire or something, I think for them, I think we ought to give them the benefit. Do you want either or? I mean, yeah, there's a state law that says you have to pay that out.
Yeah.
No question. But I think some of them, I think as far as their budgets or their home budgets or what have you, would be a lot easier on them if they take it that way. And if I'm not wrong, I think a lot of them, that's the way they have left, and is doing it that way instead of taking one lump sum.
That's correct.
Mr. Manton?
And I think especially if someone is retiring in the last part of the year, that would spread their income out in the following year, so I think we should give them a choice.
All right, so we're looking for a motion.
And again, the motion to be made in the affirmative, the motion would be to include the highlighted language in this section.
Mr. Manton?
I'll make a motion to include the highlighted language.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to include the highlighted language, which says at the discretion of the town manager, this pay can be made either at the next regular payday or paid in increments of 40 hours per week until all leave pay is exhausted. And this is section 4, letter F, separation, page 7. I don't, separation 3, I guess, I don't know. Page 7. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Motion carries. All right, next one is, does the board wish to include the highlighted language? All right, section 5, letter A, standard work week, unless expressly permitted by the town manager.
So this is language that's been in and out of this section. This is the section that says hours worked. So vacation time, holiday time, sick time cannot be added to your hours worked to prompt overtime to be paid at time and a half. If you work 16 hours in a day and then you take an 8-hour vacation day, you're still going to get paid for the hours that you worked plus that vacation day in that work week, but it will not trigger time and a half. Now, I will say, while you're considering this one, the next one right beneath it is important as well, because they kind of go hand in hand, whether or not overtime is considered 40 hours a week plus or 8 hours a day plus. So the way this used to be written, paid leave time for any purpose shall not be counted as hours worked unless permitted by the town. And that was pretty vague. As who's permitting that? Is the selectmen permitting that? Is the town manager permitting? Is the department head permitting that? So we added the word manager to say unless expressly permitted by the town manager. In this case, when you have a town clerk that works an election, they work 16 hours in a day, or you have a bookkeeper that's doing the audit and they're working 12 hours in a day, they could get that time and a half and use time off. So that's why it's written with this yellow language in here to allow it on a case-by-case basis with permission from the town manager. And when it comes to overtime, all overtime is supposed to be permitted by the department head or the town manager anyhow. Something that just shouldn't happen willy-nilly. It's something that should be planned for, or if not planned for, at least discussed after the fact. So my question is, do you want to leave that discretion of the town manager or permission of the town manager to allow for that situation where if someone works more than 8 hours in a day, they can get overtime? to make it as clear as mud, if you do approve this, then you don't need to worry about 8 hours in a day on the next one. You can just leave it 40 hours a week overtime.
So what?
I think I'll make a motion that we add the highlighted language to section 5A.
And 6?
No.
No. Okay. All right, so motion, we have a second. I'll second it so we can discuss it. So we have a motion and a second to add in section 5A, standard work week, page 7, unless expressly permitted by the town manager. All right, so let's discuss it. Mr. Logan?
Yeah. All right, let's, so A, refers to the bottom one, section 6. All right, if I work an hour over on Monday, and I work the rest of the week, all right, do I get that hour overtime?
So if you work 9 hours on Monday,
Yep.
and then the end of the week you get
41.
41 hours, then you'll get that hour, time and a half.
Okay.
The only time that comes into play is if there's a holiday in that week, correct?
Holiday or vacation or sick.
Holiday or vacation, okay.
So if you work 9 hours on Monday, but then you took Tuesday off and used your sick time for it, then you would end up with 41 hours, but that 1 hour would not be paid at time and a half. The total is not hours worked.
See, I think it should be 8 hours in a day, or beyond that, it should be overtime.
So if that's the
What you do, well, maybe we should change, you can't use vacation time as time off. Or you can't, yeah, I mean,
well, that's what this says. That's what this says without the highlighted language.
right,
So if you want to leave it without that highlighted language, then you'd have to address the 8 hours in a day on the next one.
right.
Right now you have a motion and a second to include the
Approve it,
highlighted
right.
language.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none.
Wait,
all-
that's the moment. Now, we always do what the highway contract says, right? 99
We try to be consistent between the two when you can.
So what happens at the highway if they work over 10 hours?
So if you work over 10 hours, it's overtime automatic.
Automatic.
But if there's a holiday that adds to their hours, they don't get time and a half over 40.
Well, we get time and a half after 10.
Right.
So if we worked a regular 40-hour week, I would want to say that would be just 40 hours. We don't include the holiday in our 40-hour work week.
Right, it's not time
So
work.
we have to work,
Right.
so we have to work extra time at the end of the, we don't have to, but we have to work an extra 10 hours in the 40-hour group to get to the time and a half.
Okay, so Monday you get 12 hours.
Yep.
All right, rest of the week, you take a vacation time, and then Friday comes, so how many hours did you work?
Well, they're gonna get paid time and a
You
half
can
for
get
those
time
2
and
hours.
a half.
Okay, so they're different than the people who work in the office?
That's right, correct, they are. And
Why
so,
is that?
They had a contract.
because that's what was written in their contract. And we allowed, for whatever reason, when the board made this personnel policy, we allowed for that unless expressly permitted by the town to be added here, which is not added in the highway contract. So if you want to be consistent with the highway contract, you do not put this yellow language in at all. Because that's where the highway contract stops, is right there, counted as hour of work period.
All right, so it looks like the answer to this is vote no on this one and vote and change the next one. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so although we have a motion to add the highlighted language which says unless expressly permitted by the town manager to section 5, letter A, page 7. So, all those in favor? All right, all those opposed? All All right, it goes down 4-1.
So that's really all you need to do, so now that yellow language will not be included. in the
So we
personnel
go to the
policy.
next one.
Right.
That's going to, we gotta add this.
So this one here currently says, employees shall receive time and a half of their base hourly rate for hours worked in excess of 40 hours of pay period. Now, my question down in there below that is, does the board wish to change the basis of overtime from over 40 in a week to over 8 in a day? And if you did want to do that and made that motion, we would change that highlighted line from 40 hours in a pay period to 8 hours in a day.
I'll go along with that.
I'd like to make a motion that we change, what is this one, section 6A, take out the 40 hours in the pay period, put in
8 hours.
time over 8 hours during the day.
All right, we have a second. Would you second that? No? All right, I will second it to get us moving. So the question is, we have a motion and a second in section 6, employee benefits, page 11, to change the highlighted portion to be in excess of 8 hours in a day. Correct?
What?
In excess.
You work over 8 hours in a
Work
day.
over 8
you
hours
get
a day, so instead
overtime.
of 40 in a week, in a pay period.
And I understand what you're
Yep.
saying,
Yep.
but when we discussed this before, everybody was kind of on the consensus of paying overtime for 40 hours, over 40 hours a week. Right? And now you say anything over 8 is time and a half?
Anything over.
Is that what you're
right.
saying
Right.
now?
Yep.
Just trying to
Yeah.
clarify
Yep,
that.
that's what it
That's
is.
just like the highway.
So once again, just let me add some parameters here, looking at the whole personnel policy. The overtime, all of that is at the discretion of the department head or the town manager. So if a department head or the town manager feels that you have an employee that's abusing overtime, they can deal with that and say, you're not allowed to do this. So this type of overtime that you're talking about really goes back to that situation where I'm asking a clerk or a bookkeeper to work extra hours because we have a job that needs to get done. And so that way they can get that extra time and a half for 10 hours worked in a day and still take a day off later in the week, and it doesn't hurt them. They still get that time and a half for the hours worked.
And it's not, and it's also, it's not that much, we don't have that many hours that we're giving out into overtime.
We do not. We do not.
Mr. Phil?
And if somebody comes in late in the afternoon, which you have to wait on them, which takes you over your
That's right.
time.
And that's very common that a registration comes in at 10 to 4 and it takes you over. And, you know, the person should be compensated for doing that work.
Mr. Mid?
How much overtime is in the admin budget?
About $3,000, 3 to 35, somewhere in
I
that
thought it was
range.
35.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're pretty much on track for that this year. We're not over.
Is that what you usually average in overtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that much.
Again, depending on the situation.
Yeah, I'm sure, but on the average, if nothing exceptions.
Right.
All right.
All right, so I have a motion and a second to change this to 8 hours in a day, in excess of 8 hours in a day. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, 4-1. All right, letter B in the holiday pay, where the change is adding Juneteenth.
We've discussed this before. Juneteenth is a recognized state and federal holiday. This would just add another day to our list of holidays that we observe.
I think it's a good idea to follow state and federal holidays.
Yep.
Then there's no question.
All right, we need that a motion.
I'll make that a motion, Mr. Chairman, that
Right.
June Juneteenth be considered as an observed holiday.
Do we have a second?
I'm second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to add Juneteenth to the holiday pay schedule. All those in favor?
Wait, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Goodman, question.
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, if you're gonna do that, how come we have Friday after Thanksgiving and day before Christmas?
We've traditionally had those for years.
Yeah, it's always been that way.
Since I've been here.
Huh?
So you can cook.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on the back.
So following the same logic that Mr. Moody just had, we've actually gained a day, but I'm gonna recommend that we remove the half day. So there's still a net gain to all the employees of a half day off here. But traditionally, our community does not understand why we close on Good Friday before Easter. And that is not a state or a federal recognized holiday. So I'm recommending that the board consider removing it.
All right. We need a motion to do that.
Make a motion that we recommend that we remove half a day Good Friday.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to remove half-day Good Friday from the employees paid for normal scheduled work, day off. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, letter D, sick leave injury. We're adding employees hired after approval of this personnel policy will not receive any compensation for sick time accrued at the time of resignation. Recommend removing.
Right, so the recommendation here is the board wish to remove this language. So this highlighted language already exists in our policy, and it creates 3 different levels of sick time accrual. Right now, if you accrue sick time as a worker and you quit in good standing, if you've worked up to 20 years, or not exceeding 20 years, you get paid 25% of that sick time. If you've worked over 20 years, you get 100% of that sick time. When this policy was updated back in 2012 or 13, somewhere around there, this language was added, and I don't recall because I wasn't here, and it says employees hired after approval of this personnel policy, which I'm thinking is around 2012 or 2015, but it doesn't say it in here, will not receive any compensation for any sick time accrual at time of resignation. So you've created differing situations for differing people, and I don't know if we can even keep track of that.
I just have a question. It seems to me, in this particular statement, that they wanted to do away with that, whoever was working on this personnel policy.
It seemed like they were going in that direction of
Because
paying.
industry-wide, most people, when they separate or retire or whatever, they don't receive whatever sick time they've accrued. They receive any vacation time and all that.
Right.
And so I'm thinking the folks that were working on this were looking at that. No, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but I'm pretty sure that's probably why they were doing that. That was way before me too, so.
All right, so I guess our question would be, a motion would be to remove that sentence. And if we have no recommendation, it will stay that way, correct?
Correct.
All right, any motion on that matter?
I make a motion that we remove it.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to remove employees hired after approval of this personnel policy will not receive any compensation for sick time accrual at the time of resignation. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right. Opposed? None, motion carries.
Can I ask you one question here? How many, what is it, 300 days, 365,
360.
That's the amount of hours you can accrue.
350?
360.
If you hadn't done what you just did, then people are gonna get that sick time, one way or the other.
You're gonna have sick people.
You're gonna have a lot of sick people. They know what's coming down the road.
Right. It is.
You can't have different levels of,
No.
it's gotta be the same.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to L, vacations. Vacation privileges are available to full-time and eligible employees on the basis, and the change would be vacation days can be earned but not used during the 6-month probationary period.
So right now, the practice, right now, the way it's written, we are not following it. We are actually doing something different. Because right now, if you hire somebody, you earn sick days right out of the gate. You earn 8 hours every month, but you don't earn any vacation time until after your probationary period. In some of our most recent hires, we've actually allowed them to start earning vacation time, but not use it during their 6-month probationary period, which is a much more competitive position to be in this current job market.
Right.
When you're trying to recruit people and you tell them, they say, hey, am I getting 2 or 3 weeks vacation? Well, actually, you're not getting any vacation until you've been here 6 months. So Jeff and I discussed this when we were hiring at the highway level, and we discussed this when we were hiring at the town office. And so my recommendation is to change the language to allow earning vacation time immediately upon hire.
You're saying the way it's read here, earned but not used during that probation?
Correct.
Okay. I'll make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to change under vacation. Vacation days can be earned but not used during the 6-month probationary period. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, so that takes us through that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll get you a clean, updated copy of the personnel policy, and we'll put these things into effect immediately. Thank you for your time.
All right, so we have number 4, discuss town manager compensation.
So in your packets, I put this sheet, which is a summary of 2 things. Road commissioner pay based on towns of a similar size, and town manager pay based on towns of a similar size and experience. And what we are currently budgeted to pay for a road commissioner is not too far off what the average is from all these other communities. What we are currently paying the town manager is below average. Last meeting, Mr. Vinziano asked if the board would consider some compensation for the duties that I am doing as both town manager and road commissioner. I don't have a recommendation to you on that. I will say that based on what I'm working at, I can only do so many things as road commissioner, but it does take my time. And it does take time away from some of the other duties that I'm doing, and it does take time away off hours when I'm out of the office. So that it does have an impact there. And if we do not hire a road commissioner, my guess is if we don't hire a road commissioner by middle to end of February, we might as well not even bother, because they need to take out papers in April, and the elected process just has to go that way. So it's quite possible, and I'm not, excited about it, but it's quite possible that I would be doing these duties through June. So, but to me, I'm giving you this information for you to consider, and maybe even discuss if you want to. But it's up to you as what you want to do for my compensation.
Mr. Moody.
I feel better of eliminating any stipends, any compensation as far as that goes, and bring you in line somewhere in the average of what everybody else is getting in the area. To me, I think that's more fair.
Yeah.
Why should you be that far down below? The nearest one to you is what? Well, you got one below you over in Hanson, that's it. The rest from, the nearest one to you is in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. Because I don't care for compensation stipend, this simplifies it. Because then you've got, how long is this gonna go? Is it gonna stop on such and such a date? This way here, I don't know how you feel, if that would be fair to you, but that's what I'm looking at.
We're looking at, to do that, we'd be looking at the 2023 budget, right? The 23-24 budget. We wouldn't be looking at that at this point,
Right.
right? For the town manager
Yes.
as part of that. My question was, for hours worked outside of the normal day, should we be compensating the town manager as road commissioner while he sits in that position? And I would say once he's out of that position, that stops. And I do agree with you on getting to at least average here in the next budget cycle. But I think for, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I do think you have to compensate somebody if you're asking them to come out at midnight or at some point during the evening to check on what's going on, and I assume that the town manager does that, or the town manager / road commissioner. So that was my thought on that. And I would say that it stops as soon as we hire somebody or June, election day in June, I would say.
I think we should evaluate, and then we can do better.
Right. I think both of you, I don't think are wrong, but I think we're putting two things together here that aren't together. The job right now is the road commissioner. The town manager is doing the road commissioner's job, or being a substitute road commissioner. So for his hours, I think we need to put some pay into it. So what?
I agree with you in that regard, and also the fact that we're going to be reviewing
Coming up, yep.
pretty soon Tim's
Yep.
evaluation, doing his evaluation. At that
Right.
point, I'm assuming that's when we set
Talk about
the
salary.
salary.
Yep.
So these are two different things, and I feel strongly that he should be compensated for what he's doing. He's doing two jobs right now.
I mean, do we set so many hours a week times a certain figure? I mean, I don't know.
Can you get us an idea of what the hours are, perhaps at some point, or?
I mean, I can tell you right now, based on the last 6 weeks, it's been probably about 10 to 12 hours a week in addition to what I would normally do.
And so sometimes.
And my rate of pay for town manager right now is $35 an hour. The rate of pay budgeted for the road commissioner is $32 an hour.
Right, would we like to bring this up again, or talk about some more now, or come up, I mean, if you're talking 10 to 12 hours, times $35 an hour, I mean, I think we probably have the money in our road commissioner account, I would say. Yeah, I would say, I mean, we need a motion for it.
Well, right, if you're going to compensate me out of the highway budget, then yes, you need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion that we compensate him on the highway budget for whatever hours.
So many hours
Yeah,
a week? I mean, you want to name how many hours? I mean,
10, 12, whatever.
10 to 15?
I would recommend that you just pick a number, but rather than tracking what is done.
What?
Yeah, I don't.
What do you mean by picking number 10?
So if you say 10 weeks, or I'm sorry, 10 hours a week at $35 an hour, then if you wanted to make a motion to authorize $350 a week for each week that I'm in this position, And that would be cleaner than to pay you an extra
Yeah.
so many hours.
Wouldn't it be more fair for you to let us know what you're putting in for hours per week and pay you for those hours? Because some weeks you could get underpaid and some weeks you'd be overpaid.
Yeah, if you want to do that.
I would feel more comfortable as you bringing us the hours that you're putting in up there than we'll address it in a dollar form.
I want to be fair, I mean, I don't want to shortchange you.
That's, in that way, you ain't
Right.
shortchanging it.
Right. And I think it comes to an end when either a person is hired or June town meeting, June election comes.
Yep.
Is that reasonable? I mean, all right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
No, what's the motion?
To,
Compensate him, but we had to pick that up.
Only just leave it at that, compensate him, better.
the town manager,
Whatever.
to be road commissioner,
He can turn in.
he can turn his hours.
And should we put this figure in there?
Well,
You
you-
said you didn't want him, you wanted him to tell us how much.
No, I wanted him to tell us what he gets for hours. Let him tell us for hours
So we can't put a number in unless he gives us a.
at his hourly rate.
Right.
His hourly rate's $35 an hour.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, at 35, I see what you're saying, at.
Yeah.
He's a road commissioner, he's not the town manager again. So what's the town manager get, $32?
Town manager's 35 right now.
35, and what does the road commissioner? 32, so you should get $32 an hour.
We're gonna hassle over $3, Bobby.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Why should we give, we don't have a road commissioner, right? So why give the guy
We
a
do.
raise?
We do, but, all right, so we'll go with 32 then. So the motion is to pay the acting road commissioner $32 an hour for the hours that he works over his regular day.
And can I ask, if I bring you the documentation, can you make that retroactive to November 28th? That was the day that I was appointed.
Is that okay? Snooty?
Have you kept track of the hours since then? Okay. Okay.
So we have a motion, I'll second it. And any other questions? Mr. Moody?
I think you need a new motion.
Probably you're right.
Because, I mean, you've got dates and figures in here
All right,
now
so
that you didn't have
let's get it all
before.
together now. Sally, you want to make this motion?
I will make a motion that we compensate our town manager for his road commissioner position for hours worked at $32 an hour, and retroactive back to when he started working.
November 28th.
November 20th.
And moving forward until the person is found, the person is hired, or the election in June.
I'll second all.
All right, Mr. Moody will second it. Okay, so we have any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? The motion carries. All right. Selectmen's concerns, Mr. Moody.
No.
Mr. Manta. Mr. Gillette? Mr. Logan?
Just one, on the four-wheelers, horses, walkers, joggers, on this trail that goes up through. Now, this summer, I assume it's gonna be finished, right? So everybody can do whatever they want. Okay? In the process, Nodwalk has that Fatherall Road that's wide open until it gets to Madison. Okay? That was checked in, and the guy said that wherever we have an Nodwalk Road, we can ride four-wheelers. That's what their policy is, apparently. So are we ever going to discuss this again about vehicles coming on and going off and all this other stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Mr. Elias, who lives on Fatherall Road, the only Madison resident that lives on
Right.
Fatherall Road,
Yeah.
he brought that to my attention, but he did it after we had posted this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So at the next meeting, we'll discuss options on that.
All right. Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Goby?
That was it.
All right. My only thing is just, remember, we have an ambulance board meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Citizens' concerns. Citizens' concerns? All right, seeing none, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wow, this was
Second.
long.
Got a second, Mr. Gilpin? All right, all those in favor? All in favor, we are adjourned at 7:35.